Welcome to Construction Genius. This is Eric Anderton. Southwest Airlines is the world's largest low-cost carrier and is consistently rated in the top 10 of airlines worldwide by sites like TripAdvisor. On one level, they are like any other airline. They transport people from one point to another. But what sets them apart is how they do it. Unlike many major airlines, Southwest does not use hubs, but rather a point-to-point transportation system. The airline's fleet is configured with just an economy class cabin, and in contrast to many low-cost carriers, Southwest does not charge a fee for up to 2 checked bags. And I particularly like that because when I'm traveling for business, I just have my backpack with my laptop and I have a small case where I stuff all my clothes in and I'm good to go. Non-alcoholic drinks, pretzels, peanuts, all that kind of stuff, those are free on board. Early boarding access, automatic online check-in, and alcoholic beverages are available for purchase. Their success is not an accident. Rather, it's as a result of the development and refinement over the years of a thoughtful plan that drives their business success. Just like Southwest, if you're going to enjoy sustained success in your construction business, you must give considerable thought to building, adapting, and refining your company's plan. In this episode of Construction Genius, I'll walk you through how to do that. This is part 3 of the 4-part series on the triangle one-page planning process. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. The one-page plan is designed to be a compass guiding your company towards sustained success. Part 1 and 2, and you can find those in episode 77 and 79. That's all about your purpose and your personality. Part 3 today is about your plan. Part 4 here, coming up soon, will be about your priority. What is a plan? A plan is a scheme or method of acting or proceeding that is developed in advance. And again, sustained success is not accidental. All planning has at its core a question. How are we going to be successful? And that's a very simple question that you have to keep at the forefront of your mind whenever you're doing any kind of planning. And the answer to that question, how are we going to be successful, is found by answering 3 critical sub-questions. And those 3 questions are going to make the outline for this episode. The first question is, what is our niche? And the key word that you want to keep in mind for that is clarity. Second question, how do we serve our niche or serve our customers? And the key word that you want to remember for that question is uniqueness. And then the third question we're going to dive into is, how do we grow? The key word for that is discipline. Your plan should all be about clarity, uniqueness, and discipline. What is our niche? How do we serve our niche? How do we grow? And this is a key point that I'd like to make, and I want you to keep in mind as we go through the episode and as you consider any kind of planning that you're doing. It is more important to say no than to say yes. It's more important to identify what you should not be doing than to grasp every single opportunity and try and be successful. By way of introduction, I'd like to ask the question, how do you define success in construction? Let me give you one definition. Success is when you are consistently building the right projects for the right clients, ideally repeat clients, in the right locations. And you're doing it safely, with high quality, and schedule adherence. This will result in profitability. Any planning that you're doing should be geared towards that goal. Okay, so let's look at the first thing we want to talk about. That first sub-question under the main question, how are we going to be successful? And that first sub-question is, what is our niche? And what I mean by a niche is simply that which your company is best fitted for. And the key word here is clarity. And when I began to talk about what your niche is, did it pop into your mind right away? Is it clear in your mind, or is it kind of fuzzy? You know, for general contractors, the average net profit in the United States is 3%. So, in order to generate $1,000 in profit, you have to generate $33,000 in revenue. Put another way, it takes approximately 4 to 5 profitable jobs to break even from one bad job. Think about the last time you lost money on a project. Perhaps that's happening right now. Why did you lose money? It was probably for a combination of these 3 reasons: the project type, the project location, or the client. Think about the client who brought you on to build a project but was unprepared for that project. They poorly conceived the project. The plans that they bring to you are not well developed. It cost you delays. It cost you changes. It cost you mobilizing your guys and then demobilizing them. It was really, really frustrating. Think about the project types that you've entered into where you've lost money, where perhaps you thought that you would be able to build it well, but maybe you lost a key guy or a key crew, and as a result of that, you struggled with your efficiency or you struggled with your quality. Think about the location. You saw a project perhaps outside of your normal geographic location, and you thought that you could build it well, and perhaps you wanted to make a splash in a new area. You went to that location, you figured, I'll pick up a crew here or there. You thought a particular superintendent would be able to bring some of his guys on board to help you out in that location, but it just didn't work. What is your niche? You must take time to analyze your projects, both good and bad, and ask yourself, which projects do we build most efficiently and profitably? What's the best location for us to build in, and who are the best clients for us to build for? So if you're going to sustain long-term success, you've got to nail your niche. And let me give you an example. I did this process with a general engineering company, and you might characterize them as sort of a mom and pop engineering company. But I'll tell you one thing, they know their niche. As far as location is concerned, they want to do projects 90 minutes from where they're located, because they don't want their guys to be on the road all the time, and they have a core group of people that they want to work with again and again and again. They've nailed their clients. They want to work with public works and utility districts. So they're hard bidding work. They're very good at hard bidding. They're not in negotiated environments. And as far as job size is concerned, they're going to build projects up to $8 million, and they're going to provide underground, paving, and concrete. You notice what they've said yes to and what they've said no to in defining their niche. And that's the wonderful thing about business. Your niche can be whatever you want it to be. You can do whatever you want with your business. But the problem with many construction companies is they are unclear on the niche. And because they are unclear on the niche, it's difficult to be consistently successful. If you're clear on your niche, you can filter all of your decisions through those questions: right location, right job, right client. And this should be front and center of your one-page plan. Now, to go deeper and begin to set yourself apart from your competition, you then have to ask, in terms of the clients that you're working with and the projects that you're building, how do you solve problems and add value? And that leads us to the second question that you want to ask when you're building your plan. and that is, how do we serve our niche? And the key word here is uniqueness. And really what we're talking about here is, how can we drive up revenue and drive down costs while solving problems and adding value for our clients? This is how you're going to drive profitability and success over a long period of time. And again, you have to give forethought to this. You can't just be showing up and winging it. You have to sit down with your executive group and do some thinking around, first, like we said, what is our niche? And now, how do we serve our niche? And what's really interesting, this word uniqueness, if you listen to episode 77 and 79, we talked about how purpose and personality make you unique. And as I've been reflecting upon this idea of plan and how you do your business, it is another opportunity to really set yourself apart from the competition. Again, back to Southwest, what they do is fundamentally no different than every other airline in terms of transporting people from one location to another. But again, it's how they do it and the choices that they've made in terms of how they serve their customers. So for instance, one of the choices they've made is limited passenger service. So they don't offer meals, they don't have seat assignments, they don't use travel agents, they don't connect with other airlines, they don't do baggage transfers. Think about their ticket pricing. It's very low. That's one of the things I love about Southwest. You can get on there and get a $49 flight, right? And that is driven by having a standardized fleet of aircraft and really being able to focus in on utilizing their aircrafts as much as possible and having lean, highly productive ground and gate crews and frequent, reliable departures. It's not what they do, it's how they do it that sets them apart and makes them successful. And they're not just showing up and figuring out how they're going to fly planes every single day. They're thinking it through in advance and executing and refining it. And that's what you need to do with your construction business as well. So again, let's think about it. Everything that you want to do in your business should be focused on driving up revenue and driving down costs. What are some of the ways that you can drive up revenue in your business? And what are some of the areas that you should be thinking about and planning about in order to be successful? Well, one, it can be value engineering. Value engineering is a systematic and organized approach to providing what your clients want in a project at the lowest cost possible, right? You bid it at $1 amount, and then afterwards you can value engineer it to a lower dollar amount, and as a result of that, make more money. Value engineering promotes the substitution of materials and methods with less expensive alternatives without sacrificing functionality. How good are you at value engineering? Would it be appropriate for your company to focus some time on planning how you can improve your value engineering and emphasizing that with the purpose of driving up revenue? What are some other ways that you might be able to drive up revenue? Think about bid accuracy. The more accurate you are on your bids, the more money you can make. Think about customer service. I tell you, particularly in challenging economic times, customer service is a massive way to drive up your revenue. Do people have a smile on their face when they think about engaging your company in a project? Do they want to work with you? Are you getting as close to your customers as possible, figuring out the problems they have and the value that you can add? And then are you putting together a plan to make sure that you're executing on customer service? What about change order management? That's another way that you can drive up revenue. Of course, ethically. But it's fundamental that if you're doing work, you should be getting paid for that work. And the very best companies, they have integrated processes and procedures by which they manage their change orders so they can capture every dollar that they've legitimately earned. But that requires planning on your part. And so you think about the planning processes that you go through, and hopefully you have regular planning sessions as an executive team. One planning session may be dedicated to what is our niche. But then perhaps after you've nailed that, you really need to be thinking about next, well, how can we serve our niche? And how can we drive up revenue and drive down costs? And you have to do some planning around that. Speaking of driving down costs, what are some practical ways that you can do that? Well, the quality of the work that you do and the amount of rework that has to take place. Rework will kill your profitability. So perhaps part of your plan going forward should be to train your people in the field more effectively so that rework is reduced. Safety. If you are safe in the way that you build projects, obviously your costs are driven down. The way you utilize equipment, the way you manage your subs and your materials, the way you manage cash flow. Think about it at the moment. Are you underbilled or overbilled at the moment with most of your projects? You know what helps to generate cash in your business, and it definitely isn't underbilling. So maybe you need to put together a plan to discipline the cash flow in your business as much as possible by focusing on an issue like underbilling or overbilling. My point being, once you've identified your niche, the best companies, they get close to their customers and they figure out how uniquely they can service that niche by driving up revenue, driving down costs, and solving problems and adding value to their customers. And this is a difficult process. It isn't something that just happens by a snap of a finger. Everything you do should be tightly integrated together. And the more tightly integrated the things that you do are, the more difficult it is to compete with you, and the more you set yourself apart from just any Joe Blow kind of contractor. Okay, so we've talked about the planning process in terms of what our niche is and how we are going to serve the niche. The third part we want to take a look at in the planning process is how are we going to grow? That's a great question. As you're sitting around in a planning session, you're looking at each other. Growth is so essential. I tell you, you're either growing or you're stagnating. And growth is essential to construction companies. But the key word here is discipline. I was on the phone yesterday with a contractor, and over the past 3 years, they've doubled their size and doubled it again. Now think about in your business when something like that has happened and how painful that was. Particularly if you're already established at a good level. Doubling your business and then doubling it again over a 2-year period can destroy a business. You know that most construction companies don't go out of business because of a lack of work. They struggle many times because of too much work. And so when you're planning about how you're going to grow, you must maintain a sense of discipline. And not really a sense. Let me rephrase that. You must maintain a commitment to discipline. Now, in terms of how you can grow, there's internal growth and external growth. I want to touch briefly on internal growth, but I'm going to spend the most of my time here on external growth. So as you're in the planning process, one of the things that you have to be doing is looking at the people in your organization. And of course, with people, you always want to hire slow and fire fast. Unfortunately, for most construction companies, it's the other way around. You want to focus on developing and training the folks in your organization from a technical point of view so that they can be building in an efficient manner, safely and profitably. And then you also have to develop leaders, understanding that people quit their boss, not their company most of the time. And from an internal growth point of view, how can you refine the processes that you have in order to be more profitable and more successful? All of these things require planning and they require discipline. But external growth is the place where often this ill discipline is demonstrated in construction companies. So go back to what we talked about earlier in terms of defining your niche. Again, right client, right project, right location. Those 3 circles. If you draw 3 concentric circles and you put a $ sign in the middle, the closer you are to nailing those three things, you know the more money you are going to make. And if you're going to grow externally, my advice to you is to have at least 2 of those 3 circles nailed. So for instance, let's say you have a great relationship with a client, and that client comes to you with a project opportunity in a new location. And that project opportunity is in your sweet spot. It's a client that you trust, and it's outside of your geographic location. But because of those 2 elements that are in place already, the project and the client, you perhaps can be a little more comfortable stretching your geographic boundaries, knowing that at least you've got the project and the client base covered. So be thinking in terms of nailing 2 of those 3 circles. And as you're thinking about growth, you really need to do an analysis of the markets that you're going into. Okay? So think about a new market or a new set of projects that you're getting into. Let's say you're looking at new project types. Think about the primary customer for those project types. Do you already have clients who you could build those new types of projects for? What is the growth potential for that project type? Is it high? Is it medium? Is it low? What is the profit potential? What is the market share potential? What is your strength versus competition? What is the life cycle of that particular project or market type? Is it emerging? Is it mature? Who is your ideal customer in that particular segment? What is the fit with your sweet spot? Okay, what are your weaknesses versus your competition? These are all questions that you have to ask in the planning process as you're thinking about disciplined growth. As you're thinking about your growth, you always have to be analyzing your competition. Okay? You're in construction, so therefore you have competition. Now, as you're integrating the way that you do business and making yourself unique, you can be setting yourself apart from the competition, but the competition are always there. And so think about your competitors in a new market that you're thinking about getting into. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What is their niche? What is their main threat to you? What are some potential initiatives to beat them? These are all questions you should be asking when you're going through the planning process. Again, planning is all about how are we going to be successful? And planning asks those 3 questions. What is our niche? How do we serve our niche? And then how can we grow? And you might ask, how often should my plan change? Well, an organization's plan should change whenever its competitive landscape shifts and market conditions call for a different approach. Okay, think about the markets that you're in. What are the barriers to entry? In some construction industries, the barriers to entry are pretty low. If you move dirt, some guy might show up with a backhoe and he can move some dirt as well. But you may be in very technical types of work where the barriers to entry are very high. If the barriers to entry are low and the competition can come in and out of your segment fairly easily, then your plan may need to change quite often. If your barriers to entry are high, then perhaps your plan will have a little more durability. Another thing to think about, not only barriers to entry, but the rate of innovation. If in the areas that you focus in, the rate of innovation is high, then your plan may have a low durability and you may need to change it up. But if that rate of innovation is lower, perhaps your plan can last a little bit longer. My personal preference is not to put together these grand 5 to 10 year plans. It's perfectly okay to cast a vision, so to speak, and say, hey, this is where we want to be. But in terms of practicality, in terms of really making progress, I'd say 1, 2, 3 years at the max in terms of a strategic plan or a plan for success. Now, don't think that you're too busy to plan. You may be overwhelmed right now by the number of projects that you have or perhaps the challenges that you're facing in your business. Your responsibility as the leader of your construction company, as a senior executive in your construction company, is to insist on time together with the core team to plan. And let me say this, planning does not have to be complicated. You should drive for simplicity in your planning, even if your execution is complex. Execution of the plan may be complex. The planning itself should be as simple as possible. You should be able to nail what is our niche. You should be able to nail, how can we uniquely serve our niche? And you should have the discipline to have that discussion about how we grow. And perhaps you're thinking, it's times are too uncertain to plan. We're just trying to make it. We're just trying to get through this week, this month, this year. That's completely understandable as well, but I want to encourage you. We know that no plan survives contact with the enemy, but the process of planning itself puts you in a position where you're making conscious decisions, and those conscious decisions then have a response from the marketplace, which you can then adjust to. But without those conscious decisions, all you're doing is being in reactive mode all of the time, as opposed to responsive mode. So draw a line in the sand. Don't get tossed to and fro. You don't need to build a perfect plan. You just need to be directionally correct. So let me give you an example. In-N-Out. They're a privately held $1 billion company with over 330 store locations. They're very clear on what locations they have, where they set their locations. If you drive up any freeway in California, for instance, you're going to hit In-N-Outs on a regular basis near the freeway. They are well known for their quality and their freshness. And they're also well known for their service. So they get really close to their customers. I've never had bad service at an In-N-Out. Never. Now, I know their burgers aren't I can make better burgers than In-N-Out, right? But their burgers are good enough, and they're better than McDonald's, and the service is better than McDonald's, and the bathrooms are cleaner than McDonald's, and I like the fries, and I like the shakes. And they have a specific focus in their business. They've said no to chicken, right? You go to In-N-Out, and you get burgers, fries, and shakes. And they have a very simple menu. Now, if you know the secret ordering process, you can get something really unique and they'll make it for you, but their menu is pretty simple. Burgers, fries, shakes. They have a very clear niche. They get close to their customers and serve that niche well. And their growth is disciplined as well. They're not a franchise company. They're not just throwing up locations. They've grown in a disciplined way over the years. And that growth, in fact, has set them apart because people are always wondering, when is In-N-Out coming to my town? So think about again, what is your niche? How can you serve that niche? How can you grow? Strategic planning is all about answering the question, how shall we be successful? And it involves those three critical sub-questions. If you do it right, your plan should be tightly integrated with your purpose and personality and be nicely summarized in a few short sentences on your triangle one-page plan. Again, there should be simplicity in the statement of your plan, though there may be complexity in the execution of the plan. At the executive level, there should be no confusion. So in January 2020, Southwest reported its 47th consecutive year of profitability. They have consistently executed on a plan of success, and they stand apart as one of the top airlines in the world. 2020 may be a bit tough for them because of the COVID, but they have a solid foundation. They've nailed their niche. They serve it in a unique way, and they grow in a disciplined manner. I'm glad they're flying to Hawaii, because I'm planning on going to Hawaii with my family for me and my wife's 20th anniversary. And we're going to fly Southwest because it's a better deal than Hawaiian. Boom. All right. So next steps here. You need to gather your team and commit to planning. I encourage you. You should be planning at least on an annual basis and checking in on that plan on a quarterly basis. First thing you need to do is nail your niche. Check out the show notes. I'll put a link to a spreadsheet, a construction niche analysis that I've put together that you can use. You can download it for free. It's awesome. It will really help you to analyze right client, right location, right project type. Then you really need to tightly integrate your approach. Get close to your customers and figure out how you can add value to them, solve their problems so that you can drive up revenue and also drive down your costs. You need to integrate your approach and think through and plan how you're going to say yes to some things and no to others so that you can drive that success. And make sure that you're setting yourself apart as a unique construction company. All right, so nail your niche, clarity. Nail how you're going to serve your customers uniquely. And then finally, growth. How are we going to grow? Make sure you have discipline there. Get two of those three circles, right? Make sure that it's either right client and right location. And so that if you have a new project type you're taking on, at least you've got those two. Make sure you have 2 of those 3 circles. If you have any questions about this one-page planning process, just reach out to me. Go to my website, ericanderton.com. Go to the contact page, put in your details. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. The triangle one-page process is something that I've used with my clients for many, many years. It's extremely effective. It helps them with that clarity. It helps them with that uniqueness and with the discipline. My name is Eric Anderton. Thank you again for listening to Construction Genius today. Feel free to give us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to download the Construction Niche Analysis, which is in the show notes. And I really appreciate you listening to the episode here today. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit. And always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.